What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Investing Bros live show, and we've got a great one lined up for you again as we continue to cover what the markets look like after the last 24 hours or so, where we could have had some major bullish news coming in, turned out to be quite neutral. But today's main topic, the altcoins had been showing a lot of signs of strength on the charts, also in the news. But what does the recent data say? Is the altcoin rally still coming, or should we expect a little bit of more boring sideways action there as well? Make sure you stick around to the end of the show because we will be talking about Bitcoin, altcoins, all the important news you need to know. We also have giveaways at the end of the show for some of our members. You don't want to miss it, especially if you're one of them, but find out at the end of the show what that looks like. Guys, smash the like button, hit subscribe. We're about to get into it, but first, we got to play that intro. Yo, T-Shroom, you keep pointing things at me. Every time we come in here, I'm starting to get a little concerned, but I am still worried about how you're doing today. How are you, my friend? I'm worried.
Well, worry no more.
Yeah.
I'm better than I deserve, Tim.
Good. Okay. Listen, anxiety just, swelling up inside. Like one of these days, he's going to say he's not doing good, but that day is not upon us yet. And so I'm very glad to hear it.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I was thinking a lot about today's show and what we wanted to do. We're going to follow a pretty similar structure to what we normally have. It's going to be relaxed, though. It's Friday, but I wanted to start the show off. And I'll probably echo this sentiment throughout the show, but I want to start the show off by just setting an element of positivity before we go too much further. It's Friday. We're about to have an amazing weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There's still breath in your lungs. The markets are not at zero. So those are good reasons right there. But, there was a lot of anticipation, myself included, that I thought that there would be things happening that could bring an increase to prices this weekend. Now, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm going to look at the charts and show you some other thoughts. But you know what's a good piece of news, T-Shirt? A great way to think about this? I told everyone the other day, after we hit, like on Bitcoin, we went down to 58, and we were bouncing back up, and people were asking, Tim, what did you buy? Well, the thing is, I had lots of things I want to buy. The problem is I had to wait to get my next set of paychecks to make sure I paid my bills first and then got that excess money to buy the dips. And my fear was I wasn't going to get that money until maybe Bitcoin was back up towards 67. Altcoins were up, maybe 20% from those lows. The good piece of news is if you were like me and you were just waiting for a couple more days to come into some good old fiat, guess what? The dip is not necessarily all the way over. I don't know if we're going to be setting new lows, but I do have an opportunity to get some of that hard-earned fiat turned into crypto at low levels in preparation for the bull market. So if you're in the same boat as I am, put a 1 in chat. Let's kick off today's show with some positive thinking. Let's go ahead and jump into the bubbles here, T-Shirt. What's happening in the markets? This morning, it was more of a mixed bag of green to red. This is the last 24 hours. So even though prices are pretty similar-ish to where they were this morning, based off of yesterday afternoon's price, it's a sea of red right now. A couple of outliers. We do have Cash is up. Athena is up. Tron is a little up. Litecoin is a little up. Near is in the red. So for a second there, it looked green, but that was just a symbol. We have a couple little stragglers like Aave over here in the corner, but for the most part, we have a sea of red here. Lido, our biggest loser in the top 100, down 16%, taking a beating. But even some of the other coins that we really love here, Ondo's down 4%, Jupiter's down 4%, Solana's down 4%, Stark's down 4%. I want you guys to know, I don't know if we're going to get into crazy detail here, so just want to make sure people are aware. T-Shum, you can pull up the article just to back this up, but anyone who has either Ajax or FET or Ocean, and you're thinking as you hold this in Coinbase, for example, we are days away, a couple of weeks away from a merge that will happen where these three coins will converge into one called ASI. Well, Coinbase sent out a very important piece of information to all their holders that you need to make sure you're aware of, and T-Shirt will pull that article up here in a second, but in a nutshell, it's pretty much saying that Coinbase will not just automatically do all of your switching for you. So if you hold one of these three coins in Coinbase, you will be able in the Coinbase wallet to switch it into ASI. But if you are thinking you could just sit back and relax and Coinbase would do the work for you, you need to think again. T-Shirt, any thoughts here before you want to wrap up before we move into some of the market movements?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that you clarified that you will be still able to convert your AGIX into ASI on
Yes.
Coinbase. Is that correct? Yeah. So
Yes.
and obviously the same would be the true for Ocean and for FET.ai.
Mhm.
You know, what I was tracking initially was that this could be the first time that we actually see crypto industry internal self-regulation where Coinbase is deciding that this merger isn't going to go through. It looks like that's not the case, but that
Mhm.
does raise the interesting question of could we ever see that? Because that's the SEC's job, right? That's the what is it? The Secretary of Trade, I think it is, for the United States in the executive branch of the U.S. Like they're the ones that would say, no M&A, no mergers and acquisitions. Could Coinbase and other exchanges potentially take on that role in the future? I'm not saying that they will, but that was kind of a little bit of a hint of something
Yeah.
that could be going on here. Again, that doesn't seem to be what it is, but they're also not going out of their way to encourage these M&A actions. So just a little
Yep.
teach room take on it.
Drew P here in chat said, "What about DeFi wallets?" Here's the thing: I don't know the answer to it, but this does raise a good question. I think for everyone, if you hold one of these three tokens, whether in Coinbase or other places, be prepared. This is a new thing. It's not common. In fact, I'm actually trying to think off the top of my head. Has this ever happened where
No,
three coins merge into one? Yeah. So this is an unprecedented situation that most probably Coinbase just might be the first one coming out here.
not with these
Most
market caps at
exchanges
least.
and dexes probably don't do this for you automatically. I think this will be a manual. You'll probably have time. I don't imagine that the day ASI becomes a coin that you have like 5 minutes or it's all gone. I think you're gonna have some time to do it, but be prepared if you own one of those three altcoins and you plan on having it moved into ASI. Be prepared that you're probably going to have to do that manually. Had to open the show up there with some very important emergency updates for our holders. But with that said, let's start off with the Bitcoin charts here. I'm not going to go through the top 10 movements of the day because I'll just go ahead and save you some time. Not major movements on the top 10. Mostly, we're kind of hovering where we were yesterday, maybe a little bit lower, most of them down roughly 1%. Bitcoin continuing to hold, though, above 60,000. I actually told our VIP trading group today, I said, hey, guys, don't be surprised after not getting the bullish results we wanted. Don't be surprised to see Bitcoin kind of hover / be looking to try to make a bounce around 60,600 at the worst or at the best, because we did have this nice order block. Sure enough, again, we came down this morning. We've kind of been living in this area. We bounced up a little bit back above 61 a couple of times, but as a whole, we continue to hold that area around 60,600 where we have an hourly order block in place. Do not be surprised if we start to flirt with, if we keep moving the downside, if we start to flirt with 60,000. We do have a take profit on the 1 hour chart down here at 59,800. It could even go all the way back down below 59, back to 58,900. Again, I told you guys, if you want to be negative, you can say, oh, no more bullishness. But if you want to be positive, you can say, well, if I missed the dip last time, the whales and institutions must have as well, because they're bringing the boat back. As we move to some larger time frames, there's a potential. I want to make sure people understand there's a potential we could go even lower. I think at this point, though, it's very important to keep an eye on where we did wick yesterday, or a couple of days ago here. We did hit that daily take profit. We're still being held up. As long as we stay above 60,000, we're still being held up by a very strong level of support at the moment. But I'm not going to necessarily lie and say that there's a 0% chance of moving to the downside. Why? Because we didn't get the bullish catalyst that we needed. We had some great things come into play here. We started to rally back up in preparation that maybe the data points, the conversation that was had between two American political figures last night, maybe we'd see more bullishness about cryptocurrency. None of those things really birthed the big positivity. I know some articles this morning, if you watched the data from PCE numbers, there's some articles out there saying that these are positive numbers. As a whole, though, they kind of just did exactly what we expected them to do. And rarely, if data points do what you expect, rarely does that have a major impact on price, because more often than not, the prices of markets, stock market, crypto, everything else, it tries to bake in or tries to predict the future of changes. And so they do what they call baking in the price. We kind of got to a level where if we had all these data points come into play, like the PCE month over month being at 0.1, core PCE, the year over year being at 2.6, then we were sitting in the right spot. We didn't get any breaking news. We didn't get anything new. So that level continues to be one to watch. I want to show some relevance to something we actually talked about last night with our trading group. Our VIP trading group had a great webinar about how to use fixed range volume profile. If you want to have access to that, you can join the VIP trading group by a multitude of ways and get access to all our recordings. But I'll tell you right now, based off our fixed range volume profile, let's do a little TA right here and some follow-up for our VIP members. You will see gaps in volume probably serve as some of our greatest support levels. We already saw the touch right here of 58,400. Why? Well, that was a nice gap in our volume profile. If that one gets lost, guess where the next one is? Oh, yes, 55,300, pretty close to a number we've been talking about now for a little while. If that one gets lost, we still have some strong support here at 50,000, where, again, you have a nice volume gap. Am I predicting / expecting price to fall that far? No, because none of the news, as much as it wasn't necessarily bullish news that causes a run up back to new all-time highs, it also wasn't negative news that should suppress price and send us to new lows over the last couple of months. What it is basic news that we have to continue to wait for some other information to come out. So for now, we're going to do some altcoin TA here in just a second, but that's the Bitcoin TA. Nothing has changed. Don't be surprised if we could even fall back down between 60,000 and 58. But ultimately, we'll have to see, in my opinion, a lot more bearishness coming from somewhere else to suppress Bitcoin's price even lower. Before we move on from this topic of Bitcoin, I wanted to address a story and a topic that people have been asking questions about. We have been flirting with this. We've been telling you guys it was coming all week. Here was another one that wasn't overwhelmingly bullish. It was actually technically slightly bearish, but not majorly bearish. And it has to do with options expiry. But first, in case there's any misunderstanding, for all of you, going forward, when you hear articles about options expiry, I want you to know what time of the day, we're often talking about Fridays, what time of day are you looking at for options expiry? Because I saw articles earlier today kind of saying, oh, later today we got our options expiry. What are the levels we have to keep an eye on? It's misinformation. Go to my screen here, T-Shroom. This is an article. Options expiries happen at 8 a.m. UTC. All right, so in this case, we're talking about the one on June 28th, which is today. But options, they're looking for where is the price when you have option expiry at 8 a.m. UTC. In case you're not good at translating time, which, by the way, I'm not, I always do things like, all right, what's 8 a.m. UTC and EST? Because I live on the East Coast. That was 4 a.m. this morning, right? So we had our option expiry already flash earlier this morning. Future times, when we're thinking about options expiry, don't be waiting till the middle or the end of a Friday. It's happening as most Americans are asleep. What are the details, though, of this options expiry? The Bitcoin bulls, to be able to call this bullish, needed to be above 64,000. That did not happen. What were the exact details? Well, if we had been between 57 and 60,000, that would have cost the bulls about $820 million. Good news, we didn't have to have that. Between 60,000 and 62,000, this is what we actually hit, 430 million. We were hoping to get up above there and then have the bears actually lose some money. So technically this was a little bearish, but it could have been a lot worse. And in fact, I don't even know if that detail is right there, because I think that was 57. If it had dropped below 55, which is the level we had talked about before, this red level right here, if we had dropped below 55,000 and closed there at 4 a.m. this morning, we would have lost $6.5 billion worth of options for longs on Bitcoin. That could have been pretty rough. And I wouldn't have said put an absolute end to the bull market, but it would have definitely been a hard blow to deal with if you're bullish on Bitcoin. So was it a bullish close? No, it was not. But was it a bearish close? Not necessarily. I continue to talk about, I think I mentioned it this morning, it's very much at this point still looking like my prediction from back in March, which I've gone back and forth with thinking if it's going to be debunked or not. I think this is just one more piece of evidence that says it's going to continue. I told you in March we would dip into the halving event and then more than likely, for the most part, trade between 60,000 and 72,000 until August or September. Well, guess what, guys? That is continuing to look like it's a major play that could continue to play out. Bitcoin, even if it starts to rally, I could see the bullishness come around in the next couple of weeks. But the truth is we're probably not going to see at this point, unless something major changes, we're probably not going to see new all-time highs until closer to August or September. But the bull market at this time is still on. Now, I want to address, before we move on from Bitcoin, Rydell Sosa, in here pretty much every single day. So shout out to all of you guys who are here. Asked a great question. Tim, don't you see the bearish flag formed? He's talking about Bitcoin. Let's go and take a look at some different charts here. So, because it's one of those things that you wouldn't say necessarily, he says bearish flag here. You wouldn't necessarily say that it's an obvious one on the daily chart necessarily. One of the reasons why is because even though we have consistent downward pressure, it's not very quick. Like, you almost want to see something like, you'd want to see it almost like on a weekly chart where there's our very severe 3 bearish candles in a row and then a sideways trade right here. So while you could potentially try to get away with calling this one, it's pretty rare to see the flagpole be that slow and sporadic. But I'll offer you a different perspective here, Rydell, because I think it's an interesting thing to watch. And let's just pretend it ended up playing out as one. This probably would have a price prediction for Bitcoin to drop all the way down to about $52,000. I think that probably is part of the reason why some people have kind of put that out as a level to watch. But I'll do you a little bit of a flipperoo here and say you're looking on a short-term, potentially negative bias right here. What if we actually were to come out to a weekly chart and look at a more positive perspective, where even though we're kind of losing the ascending triangle we've talked about, let's just pretend, let's go to this chart right here. Let me get rid of this ascending green line. You could make the good argument that what we're attaching right now is a bull flag. A more conservative bull flag would be on this angle right here. This would have a breakout prediction for Bitcoin going up to, oh, would you look at that, $108,000. So when you zoom in really close and you have a bearish perspective, you could try to make an argument for a bear flag. When you zoom out and you have a bullish perspective, you could make an argument for a bull flag. I think both of these things on charts are very important. So what comes into play is, what else is the rest of the market saying? If you think that you're seeing other major bearish signals along with a lot of bearish sentiment and reasons for why the bears are going to be able to pick up more value and control, then you have an argument to say, hey, that bear flag that could take us down to 52,000 has a lot of merit. I don't necessarily know if that's where I'm going to be putting my prediction, though. On the flip side, though, when I look at this weekly chart and I look at the bull flag scenario, I think there is long-term bullish data to suggest that that one looks like a very legitimate and an effective formation. To even go a little bit deeper, I was going to go quicker on TA, but you got me down a rabbit hole here, and I think I need to continue with it. Let's take a look at a reason why I'm continuing, despite today's lack of bullishness from the news perspective, on these larger time frames like the daily chart, which is going to tell us what the next couple of weeks look like. I still see the bullishness on the oscillators as a whole. The main one being this Lux Algo oscillator, where we still, despite the not so great news, we did still get our green reversal, green momentum dot, and positive money flow. So I want to make sure today doesn't necessarily close below 60 and all of a sudden the money flow is back below that bearish threshold. But I still see this as a good reason to be bullish on Bitcoin. And here in a couple of minutes, we're going to go into altcoins and take a look at what their charts are saying here as well. Before I leave here, let's just make sure we don't check out anything else weird on the weekly chart.
Oh, Tim, I've got one for you. Out on the weekly, throw on the Bollinger Bands for the weekly chart.
And your Bollinger Bands, love it. Constriction coming in.
Yeah, constriction coming in, and look at that midline. That midline hasn't had a candle close below it since, I believe, October, if you have to go all the way back.
Yeah, and that's right there. That's the 20 SMA, and if anyone's wondering, the 20 SMA. We've also pulled up daily SMAs, for example. If I turn the Bollinger Bands off, we're kind of sitting here flirting with that 200. A lot of people are saying that's another level to keep an eye on right there. But when I have that Bollinger Band up here, this is what I'm taking away from it. I think that's a very important piece of data, T-Shroom, that we crossed below the 20 weekly for the first time since all the way back when we crossed it on October 16th. But I think what's more important is look at these bands on the Bollinger Bands. After being spread out since this big breakout way back in August, we're seeing them converge pretty tightly. Now, what's going to happen, let me actually get rid of those real quick, because what I actually think is going to happen here, which backs up something I said earlier about sideways action for a couple more months, don't be surprised if you watch these bands as they continue to constrict, kind of drag out sideways, and have some constriction before a breakout. And again, in my opinion, I think the charts would probably do something like that. and break out to the upside. Bollinger Band's a great indicator, not only giving you a moving average, but also telling us when the markets are constricting and preparing for a bigger breakout coming later. And that is what we are seeing happen right now on those weekly charts. What I wanted to say was, if you learn on LuxAlgo, technically, again, we do have the smart trail strong support that's leveled out here at 55. I still am going to tell you this because I don't want people to say like, oh, Tim says do not buy Bitcoin until 55. There's evidence to say 55 could still be in play. I just don't know for certain if it's going to end up coming to that far because, again, those daily charts give us a lot more bullishness in play. But it is something I'm keeping an eye on for certain as we watch what's happening on the weekly chart. So we'll keep you monitored on there. I would almost say if we get a big piece of bad news, heavy regulation or something major happens with ETFs, I guess, then maybe we could start to make a move even lower. But at the moment, nothing in the news or the charts from our more moderate or intermediate standpoint is telling us that it's time to be freaking out. It's actually just another opportunity to buy the dip. Now, I'm going to take a little break right here. T-Shim, anything else on Bitcoin people should know about before we move into our altcoin discussion?
Yeah, well, and it's not only you can be forgiven if you're new to Bitcoin, new to crypto. You can be forgiven, for thinking, oh, we're going down, Bitcoin's going down, and it's going lower. At this point, we're pretty convincingly finding footing. Could we still go lower? We still could, right? But day by day, as we hold these levels, right, it's convincing investors more and more. Okay, Bitcoin is going to remain, north of 60,000. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of negative stories. It's going to take a lot of fundamentals. A billionaire coming out and saying he'd never buy Bitcoin or she's never going to buy Bitcoin. It's going to take something to happen because right now there's as many buyers as there are sellers, and it's in that range between 70 and 60K. And if you look at historically, what happens when there's consolidation in a bull rally? It's that Bitcoin ends up breaking to the upside. Historically, we sometimes will look at the stock to flow model here. This one goes all the way back to the inception of Bitcoin. So, you have to take this data sample for what it actually is, which at the beginning is very skewed because Bitcoin was a little infant, right? Now it's like a toddler, Bitcoin, the technology. And if you look at the colors here, you can see that historically, even in the very first, even going all the way back to 2012, you can see that when we transitioned from blue to red, you can see that transition was sideways for a while, right? After a pretty decent bull market in blue, then it transitioned to red. And you can see that again and again. Bear with me, I have to refresh through each time. You saw this again here in 2016, this transition from blue to red. Red was sideways. It was sideways again for a long time. And I won't zoom in on this last one, but as you can see, the transition to blue to red was also sideways, and it's no different from what we're seeing right now, right? But what is very hopeful is that when we transition, I'll go back to the most recent bull market, when we start to transition from red to orange, that's when there's another explosive leg of the bull market. First it's when blue bottoms out, right? And then sideways, consolidation, distribution, and then up into orange, and then, then there is a top, and that is when you want to theoretically sell. And if you want to know the best strategy for selling, we talk about that in the Discord quite a bit, and the hint is don't sell all at once. So that's my breakdown of Bitcoin right now. Tim went much more in depth on the charts. I kind of gave you a zoomed out picture, and if you wanted to go look at this again, it's called the stock to flow model. A lot of hardcore like mathematicians have kind of debunked this as being all that useful. But I think for newer folks, the stock to flow model provides a lot of help in terms of where we are in the cycle. But just don't take it as the gospel in any sense.
I also, and I keep saying before we move on, but I think people are taking down a rabbit hole, and I want to make sure people walk away from here with as much information as they can get so they can make informed opinions. Let me show you where you're going to see people potentially doom and gloom on the charts right here, going out to the major time frames here. Let me show you the monthly chart right now, where let's just take and isolate the individual details being talked about right now on our oscillator. So recently, we had bearish divergence. A large dot here on the LuxAlgo oscillator, actually with a bearish momentum in play and reversals in play. We see an overextended RSI that looks like it wants to come back down. This is the monthly chart. Again, it's going to be something that scares people here a little bit, but I want you guys to see something that goes back to previous bull markets. You're going to see these things flash at times where the top of the bull market was not over. It happened way back here in May. Now, we did get a pretty significant reaction. The charts couldn't have known that we were going to have that much FUD in the space, but that was not the end of the bull market, even though we got that same flash. In fact, let's go back even further here. And while we did see actually a pretty good flash mark the top of our 2017 top, let's just pretend, let me get rid of that for a second. Let's pretend you had responded to the first time during the 2016-2017 bull market. If you had sold everything at this monthly charts bearish indicator, both on the oscillators, the RSI, and also on this Luxembourg oscillator, you would have sold the bottom of the pullback shortly after the halving event and then missed out on that entire bull run, right? So you're going to find people talking about these long-term charts and the bearish things that are happening, the top out calls that are happening here. What I want you guys to be aware of is this is actually very normal for middle positions around the bull market. This doesn't cancel out the 4-year cycle. This isn't something brand new we've never seen before. On the contrary, this is actually a part of what we've seen within the 4-year cycle of Bitcoin, having pullbacks, but not having the top of the bull market be in whatsoever. It actually is a nice refresher that allows retail investors to sell to who? The long-term whales, the long-term institutional holders, and they use that as their grand excuse for the exchange of wealth. So even that, I want you guys to take that with you. If you are looking at large frames like the weekly, the 2-weekly, the monthly, and you see a couple of bearish things, make sure you still are looking at historical patterns and movements of how markets have responded. Once again, I'm telling you guys on even the shorter term, based off of the information we've gotten here recently, it's not necessarily screaming at us that price is about to rally and go crazy up tomorrow. But I do think the time is still getting close. The delay and the patience just increases. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer before we're talking about and shooting off fireworks for brand new all-time highs. Now it's time to transition. Let's talk about altcoins because that is, again, probably a lot of you guys clicked on the video. You saw the title. You have a lot of altcoins. People probably have the majority of their portfolio sitting in altcoins. And after we've seen some recent extremely bullish stories come out, for example, Solana had another story today. We now have 2 different filings for a Solana ETF. This is majorly bullish news. We even talked about the other day, the charts were showing on the daily chart some major bullish news coming. Well, they're dealing with the same level of boring, disappointing updates to the rest of the news that's happened this weekend. So we're here asking the question, will altcoins continue to rally based off those triggers, or are they going down as well? Let's take a look at some of your guys' favorite altcoins, starting off with Solana, the one that has gotten the best news so far. Quick shout out to Dan, who gave $5, said, can you look at TWT? Just entered a long based on the MetaMask news. Okay, that's another thing that we'll have to cover here in just a little bit. There is some news about MetaMask. Dan, give me a little bit. We'll look into TWT here in a second. Let me get into some of these other alts, but thank you so much for that super chat. All right, so Solana, after multiple days of bullish action, after bottoming out in a zone, we told you it could get back down closer to 120. It has rallied back up as high as $151 based off the news that a Solana ETF should be coming after the Ethereum ETF is approved here, literally within a couple of days. But today, we have seen actually a decent little sell-off with this daily candle being down roughly 5% from its open. Does this cancel out the bullishness? No, it doesn't. In fact, we actually told you guys yesterday, despite the fact there was a lot of bullish things on the chart, we said, don't be surprised if Solana gets rejected. I thought it would get a little higher. I thought it would flirt maybe a little closer with 153 to 155 towards the top of our smart trail. But of course, the news came out, the data points came out. They weren't overwhelmingly bullish. And as Bitcoin corrects, so will a lot of times the rest of the altcoin space. So Solana is no exception right there. It still, though, is sitting in a good spot, very much up from its recent lows where it hit the exact level of take profit that Luxago wanted it to hit. it also defended every single day, never closed a day below a very good order block here from Luxalgo as well. That said, this was a nice level support here in the 130 region. So this continues to be bullish. When I pull up my oscillators here, despite the fact that I will say the RSI is not exactly where I want it. Let me pull back the rest of these up. The RSI right here isn't necessarily what I wanted to see because we crossed above the 50 line and then we got rejected and we're back below. My goal, though, and my hope, though, is a better way because I don't have the goal to be able to change this. My hope, though, is that we're able to recorrect and the bulls can come back in charge. This is still something out there we need to see. Solana needs to close and be above this 50 line on the RSI daily chart, but it's something that I still think is possible in the next couple of days. One of the reasons why is because the MACD did, in fact, here just about 2 days ago, complete its bullish cross for the first time since all the way back here when we crossed bearish on May 27th. But then we also have this indicator right here that despite the fact the price is down, we're still picking up strength on our oscillator. The money flow is still coming in positively after we had that green reversal. So this is something still in play. Oop, I had the drawing tool on, so forgive me on that one. This is something that is still in play on the bullish side. What I will say, though, is if you start to come down, I would say I have some fears. Let's go on the 4-hour chart and actually check out what's happening here. I would say if we start to drop below 135, on the 4-hour chart, we've done a nice job of setting higher highs and higher lows here. At the moment, we're still working on that higher low. I would say as long as we don't drop below and close candles below 135, where we just bottomed out here yesterday, there's still a good chance the bulls are in control. You can see that support level of our smart trail. You also see a strong order block. Look for a potential bounce right there. I think someone asked me earlier in chat where would be a good level to reload on Solana. What I'm watching right here, and I'm on the 4-hour chart, I see a little bit of...
We're live still. We definitely had some technical difficulties there. If you can hear me, that's great. Drop a 1 in chat if you can hear me, please. We're gonna bring Tim back in. He's got to log back in. My power went out and it killed my internet, and it looks like the internet is back. So we will keep going here. But if you're watching this back and there's a weird delay, it's because my internet cut out and this was a live stream. And these things happen. You know, power goes out sometimes places. Here's Tim. Oh, okay, great. So, Tim, people are dropping a 1 in chat, which means we're back live on the same stream.
Hey,
so
it happens. We haven't had a technical blunder in a minute, so we were due for one.
Yeah.
It's just part of the game, part of the YouTube game.
If that happens again, we'll just try to get back on. If it happened once, it's possible to happen again. I do hear thunder outside, so that's the situation we're in. We're ready to get back into the charts?
Let's do it. Let's get back into the charts. I don't know what was the last thing you heard, T-Shroom?
It's the situation we're in. The last thing, I believe you're talking about Solana and going in on different levels that we could get down to, I believe.
Yeah, I'll kind of refresh. I think it was funny because I was so fixated on the charts. I all of a sudden heard a buzzing on my desk, and I looked down, and it's T-Shroom calling me. I was like, why is T-Shroom calling me in the middle of the street? And I look over, and it says, thank you for joining. And I was like, okay, that's good to know. All right, so I'm going to try not to repeat too much, but ultimately, let's go back to the chart here. Solana daily chart hit the rejection we thought that it would. We told you about it yesterday. As long as we stay above the 4-hour support level around like 136-ish, 135-ish, the support level we just had yesterday, I still feel positive about this. I think this is just correcting here a little bit. But as a whole, if we lose that level, nothing to say we cannot come back down into the 120s once again. But for now, what I want to stress to people is we are still sitting in a spot where the bulls are in control. We're above the 4-hour bullish smart trail. We have take profits much higher. We have a lot of news as to why people are going to want to be investing in Solana long term. I'm still at this point going to remained bullish about altcoins moving to the upside. Same thing. And then while we were down, Bitcoin touched down to a level we talked about earlier here, around 60,100. Yes, it is down. Yes, this is not what you want to see necessarily. We actually are even seeing a sell order come in here on the 4-hour chart, which is not what you necessarily want to see. But it still stands that our oscillators are showing, well, actually, 4-hour chart, oscillators not looking good right now, everybody. In fact, they're not looking good at all on the 4-hour. We didn't do Bitcoin 4-hour earlier. So, all right, do not be surprised. I'm just going to say it here right now. Based off what the charts are saying, 60,000 is an area to keep an eye on just because it's 60,000 and we are picking up volume on this candle, but I don't think it's crazy to think that we're going to be dropping possibly back down below 59, maybe even doing one of those, hey, where we candle wicked the other day, we're going to find ourselves a candlestick. Anyway, that's Bitcoin. Let's get back into some altcoins that I do still feel optimistic about. We got to go and take a look at Cardano. Now, one of the reasons I'm still bullish on Cardano is it's one of the few coins that, despite the rest of the market cooling off today, look at that daily chart. It is actually in bullish gains still, despite the fact that we have a sea of red when it comes to other altcoins. You see AVAX along right with it, both of them almost up 1% on the day. Cardano also here recently broke out of a falling megaphone pattern. I've told you guys before, I think the next level to keep an eye on is getting up here closer, or a little bit above 40 cents on Cardano. There's really not a lot of resistance on the daily chart. If I were to go 4-hour chart, let's see if there's any resistance between us and there. Yeah, we're going to see a nice little breaker block where at about 41 cents, give or take. We're actually right now wrestling. That's a good observation right there. There's a nice flat level of resistance here. You can see that since back on June 19th, Cardano is not closing 4-hour candles above 39.4 cents. So that's going to be a big mark right now. Can we get over that? But if we do, boom, you got some room here to the upside all the way up above 40 cents before you hit the next major level of resistance. Same thing I was showing you guys on other charts here. Daily chart, despite the fact that today is not the greatest, you're still seeing the positivity coming in. Green reversal, green momentum, positive money flow here for Cardano. And again, you don't even have a really, more often than not, again, I would say more than 90% of the time, you will see these charts come at least up to the next significant level of resistance. In this case, we're talking about 42-ish, 40 cents range. That is what I'm still watching here for Cardano. So we're seeing it debunk the rest of the bearishness today. Potentially that could continue. Speaking of other ones debunking that bearishness, AVAX. We're having bullish signals still here on AVAX. You see the oscillators themselves are still flashing the buy signal. Green reversal, green momentum, bullish money flow, excessive sellers gone. That's still really positive. And on the daily chart, you don't see any resistance until you get back up here around $30. What's the 4-hour chart say as far as resistance? You're going to say that this might be resistance, but this isn't resistance. This is an order block. It actually is a level that's communicating that this level is tiring out a lot of bears. This big red bar compared to the small green one would actually imply the bears are the ones who want to quit, not the bulls. So while we're hesitating right now, because there are some selling and buying orders going on, look at that next level we're going up to. Take profit where? $30 here for AVAX. Had some big losses over the last couple of weeks, but I still think that they're bouncing back up at least into those levels. And then once we can get above those levels, I'm talking about like $35 for AVAX. We're talking about kind of like 45 cents for Cardano. We can start to have the conversation about the bulls coming back in as well. And now it moves me into, I've shown you some individual altcoins, but you might be saying, yeah, Tim, those are just some individual ones. Why do you think the rest of the space still is sitting in a spot that looks like it could be / should be bullish? Now I got to go back to total 3. I talked about this a couple of days ago. We still, despite the fact that today is bearish, we've been in a bullish trend after bottoming out back here on the 24th. We bottomed out in a symmetrical triangle pattern that is attached to a bullish wave here on Total 3. This is all altcoins excluding Ethereum and excluding Bitcoin. Same thing when I start to turn on the Lux Algo oscillator, the indicators, I'm seeing more reasons to be bullish. The RSI starting to move up. We just now today got a bullish cross on our MACD. And I had those same buy signals over here. Green reversal, green momentum, positive money flow, and excessive sellers and bears leaving the space. These are all things that are continuing to make me more bullish. Now, there will be a level of resistance right here where we have our smart trail, but when you zoom in, despite the fact that this is a bearish breaker block, I'm talking fast and I'm trying to make up for time here. Hopefully you guys forgive me for speaking too fast, but this is still a level where more bears get exhausted when price hits this than bulls. So is this a pink breaker block? Yes, it is. Does that mean there probably will at least be hesitation at level? More than likely, yes. But until we actually hit major resistance, which to me probably won't come back in until this higher blue line, I remain in the short term. I'm not talking about alt season. I'm not talking about altcoins blasting off to crazy new all-time highs, but I am talking about altcoins going from getting down here to about 565 billion in total to getting back up over 600, pushing towards 700 before major resistance. And eventually, when the alt season does come around, this total 3 chart will take off like a rocket. The Bitcoin dominance chart will fall off of a cliff, and we can see a lot of altcoins making you a lot of money. Now, another thing that's falling, before we move on here, you can speak faster, Tim, not an auctioneer level yet, so good to know. We're also seeing today be a little strange because it's not necessarily falling like crazy, but we're actually seeing the last 2 days on the DXY being negative. What's the reason for that? Well, check out what the DXY is actually getting very close to. This is another reason why, despite the fact that some people are going to try to put some fear into the markets about what's happening in crypto, the DXY is dangerously close to a long falling level of resistance all the way since back in November of 2022. We're getting very close to that level. This is a day where we're seeing both crypto and the DXY actually losing some value here. What's going on there? I'm not certain, but what I do know is you have seen the DXY here in what we would call a rising wedge right here. Actually, let me zoom in just a little more, even go to the 4-hour chart so we can see this a little more clearly. You see a rising wedge on the DXY. What these traditionally do is end up breaking out and moving to the downside, as we are sitting very close to long-term resistance anyway. Do not be surprised to see the DXY fall to the downside, and that should bring at least part of the reason why I think a bounce is coming to Bitcoin, to altcoins. Doesn't mean we can't fall just a little bit more on Bitcoin. Doesn't mean we can't fall a little bit more on altcoins for this bounce. But don't be surprised to see the DXY actually take a decent-sized dip. And during that time period, the altcoin space, the crypto space, move at least back up in the mid-levels. What we're watching for Bitcoin, we're watching for a move potentially back up towards around $67,000. That's not a new all-time high. That doesn't make the bulls completely back in charge. It's just a move that I anticipate could be happening still early on here in July. It's 3:46. We've had a very eventful show. A lot of technical difficulties, but it's been a good one. If you guys are enjoying the show, despite those technical difficulties, make sure you guys smash the like button. YouTube always likes it. It helps bring more people into the channel. If you guys have been entertained and helped, like if this was very helpful information, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any content we put out, because we are dropping all this information daily to keep you up to date on your investments, to know when to get in and when to get out, both in the micro and the macro perspective. T-Shroom, I am going to take another sip of water. This has been a fun one. We're about to do some Q&A with everybody, but first, I do believe it is time to do our Factoid of the Day. What sponsor is bringing our Factoid of the Day to us today?
Tim, it's a great question. And if you're looking to keep your crypto maximally safe, then turn nowhere else than Arculus. Arculus Cold Wallets are who the Investing Bros partnered with for our cold wallets. Check them out. You get a discount, 10% off in the description below. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Go ahead and check out Arculus for cold wallets. You're going to be very, very, very glad that you did. Tim, at 68 years of age, at the time of his inauguration, he was the oldest president-elect to take office until Ronald Reagan in 1981. Which president was it? Was it Tommy J? Was it Abraham Lincoln? Was it Calvin Coolidge or William Henry Harrison? Come on, Tim.
Thomas Jefferson was quite young, I think, when he actually became president. He wasn't like crazy young, but he was not old when he became president. The truth is he wasn't that old when he died. I think he was only in his 50s when he died. So it's not going to be Thomas Jefferson. I don't believe Abraham Lincoln was that old when he became president of the United States. So it's between William Henry Harrison, which is he the one, if I remember straight, is he the one that died a couple days into office, or did he live? Who was the one that died a couple days into office? I don't know.
I am not at liberty to say that at this point, Tim.
You're not at liberty to say it. Calvin Coolidge, I think, was an old man. I want to say he was an old man. Ronald Reagan definitely beat him, but let's go see Calvin Coolidge. And then I'm interested to see how old he actually was, that we call him the oldest until Ronald Reagan.
It's incorrect. William Henry Harrison.
All right.
At 68 years old and 23 days of age at the time of inauguration, he was the oldest president. Of course,
Right.
In modern times, that has changed quite a bit. To further highlight this juxtaposition, we look at the Founding Fathers' ages. This was the ages of the Founding Fathers in 1776, an important year for the United States. The youngest was Aaron Burr, 20 years old. Sorry, second youngest, James Monroe, was 18 years old. Tim, were you founding a country when you when you were 18 years old?
And probably wasn't a very successful country.
Yeah, and he was the youngest, but I mean, he wasn't. It's not like he was around a bunch of old men. We think of them as old men because that's how they're photographed and how they're documented. But Alexander Hamilton, 21 years old. James Madison was 25 years old. Okay, and this is incredible. This is how old they were in the 1770s, right? This is it's quite a contrast to what we're seeing today. In not just the United States, but across many Western countries, it's the older folks who seem to be getting elected again and again.
I was going to say, what was the purpose of this this factoid? What kind of information is happening out there that we're talking about presidents being so old? I don't know if I get the context.
I don't know, Tim. I think I've been hearing rumors, been hearing whispers of a big decision for the United States coming up in November, and I think last night there might have been a couple of little extra loud whispers that made it through the old grapevine.
Interesting. That's news to me. Very fun factoid of the day. I got it wrong, but I enjoyed it. That's always a good thing. Let's go ahead and jump into our Q&A portion of the show. And we do, again, here in like 5 minutes, we'll do like one Q&A, and then we have I'm so glad we're back, because I really panicked there for a second when the stream went dead, because I was like, no, we have our giveaways today for our new members and our BloFin traders. So I wanted to make sure we did that. Let's get one question, do our giveaway, then we'll do one more after that and call it a day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow morning, assuming that storms aren't taking out our internet. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. You do not want to miss that show either. Life expectancy, Drew P says, was 48 years old also. So that's pretty true. Doc Williams, thought on COTI. All right, well, let's throw the fundamental question to you, T-Shroom. I can look at the charts. What are your thoughts from a fundamental perspective on COTI? Of course, built on, it's one of the higher, the little bit I know about it, it's one of the higher respected coins built on Cardano, correct?
Well, the first address that comes up on CoinMarketCap is Ethereum, but I do recollect that there was a pretty strong association with Cardano. But it's, I mean, the address is not even here. It's not quoted on CoinMarketCap. Doesn't mean that it wasn't built on Cardano, but generally, my overall thought on it is that I have a positive, thought. I don't know how relevant it is. It's a fast and light confidentiality layer on Ethereum, powered by breakthrough cryptographic protocol Grabbled circuits, and secured by Ethereum. COTI introduces the most advanced compliant solutions for data protection and public blockchain. So seems pretty good. I mean, it seems like an innovation, from a couple chapters back in crypto. Crux, I'm interested, of course, to see what you have to say about COTI, but generally seems like a solid-ish project. 145 million market cap puts it in that's a pretty mid cap, and it's coming in at what is its rank by market cap? It's 280, so not even in the top 200. For having such a vague mission, you would think that it would have a much more large market cap. That's the fundamentals, though. That doesn't mean that you can't make money trading it. So let's look at the charts.
Yeah, let's look at the charts here. I saw someone remind us about the super chat from Dan. So Dan, I see you're still in chat. We have not forgotten you. We'll do that one after the giveaways. That will be our question. You guys want to start with something positive before I say something negative about the charts?
Yeah, Tim.
Positive first, T-Shroom. The positivity that I'm going to give you guys is look at the shelf that's kind of being built right here, roughly around 9.2 cents. I mean, that kind of held up here back in February, held up once again on the big dip in April. And right now we've had a couple wicks go below, but looks like it's holding up here right now. I mean, should we just end the TA right there so that everyone feels good?
No, Tim, we got to get the sweet and the spicy.
Yeah, let's start with the minor negativity that we have in play right here. First of all, again, let's go back to, this is fresh on my mind because we just taught a lesson about it. Fixed range volume profile. My favorite levels for support or resistance when using fixed range volume profile, it's not the peaks. It's not the value area highs. It's not the value area lows. It's not the point of controls. It's the valleys. It's the places where you see the least amount of volume. We have not hit that level just yet. Right there, boom, 7.9 cents. But it's not just that saying that 7.9 cents is interesting. If I were to take a look at Fibonacci from the bottom of the bear market to the recent top of the bull market, oh my goodness, it's almost like they planned it. The golden pocket's in the exact same spot right there beneath 8 cents. That is the minor bearish pullback. In fact, I think that that's probably as far as it will go, but I definitely want you guys to see. I gave you this flat level of support, and that's a beautiful thing. We've been defending it well, but what's been happening during the time period we've been defending that line? We keep setting lower highs. That is what we call a descending triangle. Descending triangles, normally, this is not going to play out. I just want to start off by saying this is not going to play out. But descending triangles have the potential of taking the opening of the formation, moving it over to the breakout spot, and that would give us a price prediction for COTI back down to 3 cents. Now, is there something about the tokenomics I'm not aware of that are going to be maybe printing the majority? Like when you look at tokenomics, were the tokenomics terrible as far as how many coins are in existence?
I closed the tab. Let me reopen that.
Yeah, I'm gonna open it again as well.
Oh.
No, I mean they've already printed 78% of their tokens. So yeah, that was my only caveat there. I just don't think you're gonna see it go to a new low for the bear market. So let's forget about that. Just forget that was even there. I do think that a little bit below 8 cents, definitely could be in play. It's a former level of resistance during the rally, a little level of support, but it's also again Fibonacci and our fixed range volume is giving us some levels there. If I were to come in even more so, we have an order block coming down this level. Take profit on the daily chart actually has us going even a little bit lower than this, coming in down to 7 cents itself. But I'll go ahead and stick with kind of a confluence of support. I think that the 7.9 cents for COTI could look like an interesting spot for your next purchase. A lot of evidence to say we should go down that far. All right, let's get into our giveaways, and then we're going to take a look at that super chat from earlier in the show. Guys, I am super excited about this. First of all, I want you guys to know that we launched this membership option a week ago, and we already have, I believe, over 8 people in here. It's going to keep growing more and more. If you guys want to be a part of it, make sure, check out my screen here. You can be a part if you want to get more into investing and have some great advice. I think literally even right after the show, there's a Friday fundamental analysis private stream for our basics and pro bros members. The technicals, they don't get access to that stream, but fundamentals will be going on right after the show. Fundamental Fridays is the perk right here. But if you want to get more into trading and technical analysis, the basic package right there, technicals, will get you access to giveaways, technicals Tuesdays, but it's actually supposed to be Thursdays. That's a typo. That's one of our shows that we're supposed to do. But if you want to go pro bros, this will give you one-on-ones with the team, a free hat, and a lot more access to a lot more of myself, T-Shroom, and Crux. So go ahead and check these out. But of course, the perks that we have is every single Friday, if you're a pro bro and a technical member, you get a weekly giveaway. Shout out to Crux, who built us this amazing little wheel. This is going to be a new fun portion of our Friday shows with that nice Lux Algo symbol right there in the middle. Look at the names on this list. We got 8 names on this list, which is awesome. But guess what that means? Currently, we have a 1 in 8 chance of winning. Next week, I'm expecting this to be probably a lot higher, but go sign up today so you can enter for next week's giveaway. One winner, when I click on this Lux Algo, is going to win $50, and that winner is... That was a little early on the drum roll. It looks like Minnesota is our winner here. So shout out to Minnesota. We're going to reach out to you as well. But if you are watching the show, congratulations. You are the first ever official $50 winner of our members giveaway. Yeah, I like that a lot. Also, we don't have a special wheel because this is a little bit more chaotic, but we have a BloFin giveaway here as well. If you have signed up with our BloFin account and you have been posting your trades, every time that you post your trade after getting submitted into our BloFin, you enter for a giveaway. And I don't have a special wheel, but our winner of the first ever BloFin $50 trading bonus giveaway is Doc B51. He has been crushing in there. Not only does he's definitely put the most trades in there, but that gives him the most entries to win. But I've only seen him put like 2 red ones in there. So shout out to Doc B, A, for winning, but also for crushing it in the trading game. Guys, if you want to not only win that $50 trade, learn more about trading, but also get access to one of the best trading platforms in the world. Check out the link down below for BloFin. Use our link and you'll get access. I actually put a video in there as well. If you have trouble learning how to use new exchanges, I taught you guys kind of the basics of what you need to know about it. With that said, let's go back here. Before we wrap up the show, we do have a super chat that we need to address. And the question, if we remember the exact question, let me scroll back up here. It was, can you look at TWT? Because he just entered along. This is Dan. He just entered along based off of the MetaMask news. Well, I look up TWT. We haven't mentioned this just yet. Can you, T-Shroom, let anyone who has no idea what he's talking about with that MetaMask news, can you let them know what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it might be a little bit of a tip here. TWT is the Trust Wallet token. It's $1.04 currently. I don't think it's a stable. It's not a stable coin though. It just happens to be at $1. But the actual news is that I don't have it pulled up anymore. I think with the internet going out may have killed that link.
Oh no!
But the SEC is officially suing the company Consensus, not related to the event in Austin, Texas, but they're suing Consensus, which is the parent company of MetaMask. Does that mean that MetaMask is going away? No, right? It's just being sued by the SEC. So. Right. You know, that's not a great thing for, MetaMask, but I don't think that they're going to shut down MetaMask anytime soon as a result of this. However, Trust Wallet is kind of the next best competitor. The market has kind of seen Trust Wallet, although nowadays there are a lot of competitors that, you can make the argument are better than Trust Wallet. Anyway, yeah, that's essentially the news. My alpha on this would be after Tim's comment. Just go ahead.
Well, I just want to say the good news, if you're worried about this, is the track record of a cryptocurrency getting served a Wells notice from the SEC at this point is a pretty good track record of not needing to worry that much. So yes, MetaMask or the company that started MetaMask is getting served a Wells notice, but they're in good company of a lot of companies in crypto that have been able to overcome those accusations, those lawsuits, and come out victorious. So not freaking out just yet. What was your last point there? And then I'm going to show the charts.
Well, I was just going to say another crypto company that has been issued a Wells notice is Uniswap. So Uniswap, I don't believe has been sued by the SEC, but now that the SEC has got its confidence up to go issuing lawsuits, after their Wells notices, Uniswap may be next. So keep an eye out for that. We certainly will. Make sure you stay tuned, stay subscribed to keep you updated. Let's look at the charts.
Let's check out Trust Wallet token. Now, we've been in a little bit of a long-term symmetrical triangle here, actually going all the way back to March in 2022. We have a couple wicks there below it. There's almost kind of like a curve of support right in here, but those are kind of harder to draw. I went ahead and just found this nice trend line here. Let's look at a couple things here. Let's start off what we've been doing almost all of today, even since being in this formation. What are we seeing here on the fixed range volume? Oh, you can't look at it because this change. All right, forget that, guys. On this one, I'm on the crypto. It doesn't have volume here. What we can look at is Fibonacci from this time, same time period. Let's kind of look at what we have. We literally just came down and bounced on our golden pocket. That's a positive sign right there. Of course, bouncing off that blue line here as well. So there had a lot of support coming in here. Let's zoom in here and take a look at what the daily chart is communicating to us. After bouncing here on a nice order block down below, we're currently, and there's no volume here. All right, I have to change this up. What is there another one I could? Yeah, let's look at Binance. Let me get some volume in here. All right, let's kind of back this up before I even go further. Let's go back. Let's zoom out here and let's take a look at the fixed range volume. That was a little bit of a headache right there. In this time period, fixed range volume, you have a point of control right above us. Oh, would you look at that? The areas we've been bouncing here, value area gap. But there's a lot of volume in this area. That's just the one volume gap that we have here. So keep an eye on that one. Already looked at the golden pocket as well. When I zoom in here and now I can turn on my Luxago indicators, it does communicate volume. It does communicate trades happening at certain levels. After bouncing on a pretty nice little order block here, it's actually one that the bulls are kind of should have gotten exhausted, but we did hit our take profit on the stop loss. We're running into, this is a bearish breaker block. Not only is it pink, supercharged, because it should have been a level that we thought we could have bounced on, and now we're coming back up to it. But you're going to notice the red line very, very thin over here. The green line very, very thick. That means the bulls get more exhausted at this level than the bears. That being said, if there is a lot of fear in the market, I understand why you're thinking you want to long this, because this could have a win if MetaMask has a loss, I guess is the best way to put it. So if we can break above that, that's nice, getting up above 112, but then you also have to deal with the daily smart trail here as well. So yes, we bottomed out here recently, but we have a couple shelves between $1.10, $1.20, and then even up here at $1.40, shelves of resistance before we're breaking out and heading to any new all-time highs. We have another one sitting up here nicely at 168. Let's see what the oscillators are saying here, because those are giving actually some bullish signs. You can see the RSI bottomed out, coming back up. Stochastics heading back up. MACD literally probably tomorrow going to get a bullish cross on the MACD. And when I look over here, we actually had our positive momentum in money flow come way back in May. I think that corresponds with one of these bigger dips back here. Yes, it does. But for the rest of the space, we've had several green reversals. We're once again moving positively with our oscillator, and the money flow looks like the little bit of red right there wants to start flowing back to the upside. So while I don't necessarily call that a strong, crazy strong bullish buy, which backs up why I think we're about to hit resistance, it is technically a buy position. I'm just not going to be surprised if we really struggle. 110 is going to be hard to get above. If we do get above it, I would be surprised if we break 120 before a lot more bullishness comes in for Trust Wallet. If you want to trade it, though, that is an interesting one. Let me make sure the weekly chart doesn't show any major signs. Yeah, weekly chart, kind of a lot of bearish pressure right in there as well. Oscillators not giving me the flash that it's really ready for any major breakout. Negative money flow, not really overextended or like oversold oscillator action either. So yeah, kind of have to continue to wait to see any more reason to be bullish on Trust Wallet right now. I would express, Dan, if you're in a long, maybe set that take profit somewhere around 110. It's at 104 right now. That's a decent little trade right there, but I don't know if I'm brimming with optimism about it getting over 110. Someone mentioned, and it's back up above, but before we wrap it out, just got to do our little wrap up on the show. Bitcoin briefly dropped below 60,000. If you had watched the show, I actually said here a little bit ago, I did think that Bitcoin was going to drop below 60,000. Now, 60,000 is going to be a great level of support from the sense of the psychological number. A lot of people probably put buy positions in at 60,000. Probably people take profits on short positions at 60,000. But when I take a look at the oscillators, I take a look at the indicators, the hourly chart showed this as a potential stopping point. But you move out to the 4-hour chart, I think you probably have arguments to say there's not a lot of support between us and maybe even coming back down to the daily 4-hour close here a little bit ago on 59.27. You also could just go ahead and go back down to 58.300 as well. If we take a look at high block, which we did not do earlier, and I do need to refresh, so give me just 1 second here. Thank you for that. Shout out to high block right there. We did come in here on the 7-day, and we actually took out within the last little bit here, took out some nice liquidations here at 60,400, but you see a nice stack right here on 59.4, and then you really don't get into a boring territory until you've crossed back down to about 58,400. What's 58,400? It's going to probably put us right there at where we just wicked to a couple of days ago. So am I freaking out and am I bearish about Bitcoin? Not necessarily. I'm not seeing any strong reason why we have to crash and burn and die. I am, though, saying if you were thinking, man, I should have entered along yesterday, and we're going to probably have a little bit more room to the downside. This is all a part of that continual volatility because the news that we got that could have been massively bullish ended up not necessarily being as bullish as it could have been. And for this reason, the market really has not decided what it wants to do. We'll post you, though, on tomorrow morning show. What is Bitcoin looking like over the weekend? More often than not, crypto usually takes a break on the weekends, and we'll gear up and set ourselves up for what happens next week. But with that said, it has been a very fun, crazy, and energetic show. If you guys think the same, make sure to smash that like button. Hit subscribe. We love you guys. See you tomorrow, 11 a.m., same time, same place. Adios.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego. Connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news, got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego. Connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. are investing bros.